Alright guys, today I'll be reviewing Wild Mouse at Hershey Park. This may look like a basic Mock Rides Wild Mouse, but trust me, this ride is an absolute animal. This is definitely one of the best coasters I've ever ridden for laterals, and I'll explain why in this review. So let's start off with the presentation. It looks like a fine ride, I like the color scheme. It doesn't really have much theming, you got the mouse out front, and that's about it. The queue for this is pretty lengthy most days. It's a very slow loader, definitely not the best ops. I will say the ops that were up there when I were there were pretty okay. They did some things really well, some things really bad. They definitely loaded very efficiently. They pumped those trains out. But I was a single rider and I rode by myself, which I was fine with. I got a Zen ride out of that. But I will say they should be loading every seat in this if they really want to keep that line moving. But anyways, once you actually get up to the station, you're going to notice that this is a moving loading station. They do not stop the trains here, so you have to move pretty efficiently here. That also could be why some GP get tripped up. They don't really get in time, and then they have to wait for the next car. However, the ops do a good job of warning you about this prior to boarding, so I guess it could just be GP being GP. But anyways, once you get in these cars, you're going to notice you got a pretty comfortable lap bar. I could imagine it being pretty tight for bigger guests, but thankfully for me, I'm not that big, so I can fit in these just fine. So then you're going to get the all clear and get out of there. When you're on the lift hill, I would recommend keeping your arms inside the car for this one. And I mean really, keep your arms inside the car. This is not one of those BS warnings, like no, do it. Because I could tell you could definitely reach out and touch the track. They do have padding like right in front of the track in case someone does decide to reach their hand out, but definitely keep them inside the car for this lift hill. Now, once you reach the top, you'll start your sequence of switchbacks. There's about 8 of these, and they are insane. These are some of the best moments of laterals I've done, and I honestly feel like they just keep getting slightly better as they go along. Now, I do want to note these are completely trimless. Maybe they were trimmed before, but on my rides here during Christmas Candy Lane, and from what I've seen in past visits not riding it, this thing runs untrimmed, and it is an absolute animal. You get thrown around on these so hard, you're just going to get completely folded over on these turns, which is why I would suggest riding this as a single rider if possible, which, given what I saw, it's definitely possible, because if you're riding with someone else, you're going to be thinking about trying not to kill them. But if you're by yourself, you can really just let the coaster do whatever it wants to you. After this, you're going to hit an aggressive turn. This might be the best one on the ride. I do think the power is slightly weaker than the past few turns, but it's very sustained. You are pinned to the side of your seat for a very long time. I was not trying to keep myself upright, but I bet even if I was, it would be a great challenge. And I don't even know if you can really keep yourself fully upright on this ride. It's just that violent. After this, you'll hit a janky transition, throwing you to the left before popping up into a set of trims, which did not trim when I was riding. So the next 2 turns absolutely folded me over to the right, which again, I love the aggression. After those 2 90-degree turns, you'll hit the biggest drop on the ride, which unfortunately didn't do much, at least in the front. Maybe in the back you get some airtime, but at least in the front it was a dud element. But the pop into the next set of trims does give you a little bit of airtime, not much though. After that, you'll hit 2 more 90-degree turns, which absolutely throw you to the right, and then you'll hit 1 more janky transition, throwing you to the left. This is followed by another forceless drop before going into a camelback that gives a little airtime, not too much, it's definitely a pretty weak floater, but you do come out of your seat slightly before heading up into one last pop, which does give a little bit of floater, I will admit, before heading into one last hard turn, which does throw you to the right a good deal, before hitting a harsh set of trims. Now, I do wish this was off, but I definitely get why they need this. If the rest of the ride was trimmed, then I say leave it off, but it's coming in with a full head of steam. You definitely need that trim there before you hit 1 more 90-degree turn, which doesn't do anything at this point, before hitting a drop and the pop into the brakes, which don't give airtime. So that is your ride on Wild Mouse. This is a ride that is definitely way more extreme than it looks. All the other Wild Mice I've done are pretty tame with the exception of the spinning ones maybe, like Raging Cajun or some of the ones at the fairs that spin a ton. But all the other mock mites have been pretty tame, and I do wonder why this one's so much more aggressive. Obviously, it's because of the trims, but I don't know why Hershey runs it like that. I imagine a lot of kids do ride this, and they're like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that again, because they thought it would be a pretty tame experience, and quite frankly, it is far from tame. This is a high-thrill coaster. I honestly think this is a better ride than Lightning Racer. This ride is pure violence, and I love it for that. It's really only violent when it comes to laterals, but that being said, I do appreciate some good laterals. So for Wild Mouse's final score, I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. I don't know why Hershey runs it like this, but I really hope they keep it up. So that is my review of Wild Mouse at Hershey Park. Let me know what you guys thought of this video down in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.